Michael Hammond is the legislative counsel to the group Gun Owners of America. He's with me this afternoon. I understand, Michael, that you are also a WashU alum. Hang on a second here. Yesterday I was having trouble with my phone system, and the engineers did not fix it for me, so I had to reach over to the mouse. How are you? You're a WashU guy?
Yes, I am an alum. I was in ROTC during the Vietnam War. In my presence, rioting crowds burnt down our building, spit on me, tried to rip off my uniform, so on and so forth. So have mixed memories of St. Louis.
Well, now if they found out, like if a student was applying at WashU and they found out you were pro-gun, they wouldn't let you in automatically. You could have a 35 on the ACT, and a 4-point whatever with your honors classes, and I think if they found out you were pro-gun, I don't think they'd let you in.
Although, oddly, in our ROTC class, we had 17-year-olds like me who were walking around in and out of uniform, in and out of formation, walking up and down Big Bend Boulevard with our probably M1 semi-automatic rifles. And at that time, no one thought there was any possibility we were going to shoot up the place.
Yeah, isn't that
subsequently we passed gun control, and all of a sudden, what were supposed to be safe zones, all of a sudden became gun-free sitting duck zones.
So let's talk about what happened with this rule yesterday and the way that I'm sure you've paid attention to the way this was sold in the media. What's the bottom line here on why Republicans like Senator Chuck Grassley from Iowa thought it was more important, or so important, I should say, to roll this regulation back?
Yeah, all Republicans voted to roll it back, and 5 Democrats did. And the reason is because what it stood for is this proposition. If you're on Social Security disability, let's say you're on it because you have anxiety, or let's say, as one of your sponsors was advertising right before we came on the air, you talk to yourself in your car. At that point, some bureaucrat who's never met you, doesn't have a medical degree, pulls out your file, looks at that, and on the basis of that, first of all, they send your name to a gun ban in West Virginia, and you're forever barred for the rest of your life from ever owning a firearm. And secondly, in some states like California and New York, they will send SWAT teams to your house in order to seize your gun by force if necessary from you and your family. If you think you had anxiety before, you're really going to have anxiety after that. And theoretically, you can appeal it if you have $10,000 to spare. But guess what? Most people on Social Security disability don't have $10,000 to throw away on lawyers and medical experts. So it was gun seizure without any form of due process. And what strikes me as interesting is not that 57 senators thought that was a bad thing, but who are the 43 people who thought that was a good thing, consistent with our Constitution?
Well, and I think that the answer to that question really is revealed in the way that I saw, and this happens, as you know, and you guys know, and Eric Pratt's been a guest on my show many times from Gun Owners of America. He's the executive director. The way that these stories are explained. Look, people, if you saw that story on the Today Show, or they'll have a story tonight on this evening news, it's that Republicans want crazy people to have guns.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they're telling people.
And they're very good at trying to formulate it in a fraudulent way that makes it look, quote, common sense, close quote. But when liberals use the term common sense, run for the doors. Because, as my law professor once said, the thing about common sense is it's not very common, and in some cases it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
So do you think that there's a way, because obviously this was a response to what happened at Sandy Hook, and you had 26 kids that were dead. Look, I was on the air that day. I remember going home that night, walking my dogs and with my wife, and I cried that night. It was so sad by what happened. Now, this is a complicated issue, and I know that people's hearts are probably in the right place when it comes to protecting kids and others. But these are feel-good pieces of legislation that do affect other people when it comes to their constitutional rights. Is there a way, for example, and I don't know if your group has taken a stand on this, to have something carved into the law that would perhaps send a red flag when someone who is, I don't know how you would do this, that sort of on the fringes of mental health and unstable for them to not get a gun?
Well, several observations about Sandy Hook. First of all, Connecticut was, prior to that time, one of the 5 most anti-gun states in the country. Secondly, anywhere in the country, it was illegal to have a gun in that school. Third of all, Connecticut had, at the time, universal background checks. Adam Lanza, the killer, didn't go through a universal background check because he stole his gun and killed the owner, who was his mother. But I think my observation about my time as a ROTC cadet in St. Louis comes back to this. By and large, through most of my lifetime, and incidentally, as a kid in Kansas City, a 14-year-old kid, we were walking down the streets with our semi-automatic rifles out of uniform. And no one at the time thought anything of it, and no one thought that we were going to shoot up our school. Yeah. What happened is that in 1996, Congress said, we're going to ban guns from all schools. Immediately thereafter, or not long thereafter, after that went into effect, a couple of kids in Littleton, Colorado decided that they were going to get their 15 minutes of fame, and guess what? They could go to their school knowing that there was no one in that school who was going to shoot back. And since that time, and since the white-hot press coverage given to that incident, there has been an unceasing series of copycat killings, each of which has had one thing in common. In each case, the killer has had a wall, frequently an actual wall, of clippings from the press attention given to previous killers. So if you want to stop Sandy Hooks, if you want to stop Columbines, I mean, it won't do you any good to ban guns. What you need to do is ban MSNBC.
Well, I would certainly support that. But the bottom line here, just coming full circle, is this was a mandate from President Obama at the end of his term that any person with a, quote, documented mental health issue who can't manage their disability benefits without a representative be handed to the FBI. The fact that was the case, and that they would be restricted from buying guns. And
as turned in, they would never be able to own a gun again unless they went through a special procedure. And in many cases, SWAT teams would come to their homes in order to forcibly seize their guns. And this done by a bureaucrat with no medical degree who had never met the person because they were flipping through your folder and saw the word anxiety, or saw that you talked to yourself in your car.
That's what I wanted to get to this afternoon. So, there's always a little bit more to these stories. As you know, Michael Hammond, who is legislative counsel to the group Gun Owners of America, went to WashU many years. Have you been back to St. Louis at all?
I've been back once. No, I've been back a couple of times, as a matter of fact. But it was not a good time in my life. We were one of three students from our university who was in the ROTC program. Most of the people came from UMSL or from St. Louis U, but we were just like isolated sitting ducks.
Yeah, it's probably worse today. Michael, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Michael Hammond from Gun Owners of America.